Welcome to Running for Real, a global community with a shared love and curiosity for running. Together we reconnect with the reasons why we love to run and discover ways it helps us become better people. Whether it's the quiet moments of a morning run while the rest of the world still sleeps, or befriending the strangers next to you at the start line of a race. We are here to connect with others who see running as the common thread that weaves our lives together. Come join me, Tina Muir, as I talk with people from all walks of life, united by a love of running. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 285 of the Running For Real podcast. Thank you for joining me today. If this is your first time of being here, which I suspect it will be for some of you, welcome to the Running For Real podcast. I'm excited that you are here, appreciative that you are here, and I hope you continue to stay on to listen to future episodes and previous episodes as we have a lot of good ones on there. If you are a regular and loyal listener, I appreciate you so much, and I've loved that we've been able to grow together through these and the Together Runs, which if you don't know what a Together Run is basically where I take a microphone in my hands and I go on a run. We go through connecting with nature, we do body scans to connect in with our body, we do senses check-in to do a further connection with our body, and then we just have a conversation. It is a wonderful way to fill in that gap of isolation that we feel right now, the loneliness we feel. I promise you, it feels like you are running with me. These have become very popular and I'd love for you to try one. Those of you who have been listening for a long time, you may have heard me mention it on occasion, but give it a try. I know it sounds weird, but it really works. But just don't listen to it not running, because then it will sound weird and uncomfortable. So go for a run, give it a try if you have not already. Now, on to today's episode, we have a real gift. It is close to Valentine's Day, and so I am excited to not only have both of these guests on separately, but also to have them on together as a couple for coming up to Valentine's Day. So I am very excited to welcome my friend and former teammate from Ultra, Ryan Montgomery. He is a professional ultra runner. He finished second in the 100-mile USA Champs. He's also on the team for the USA World 24-hour World Champs. Can you just imagine that for a second? 24 hours of running. Whew, it's hard for me to even understand. Ryan is just a wonderful, beautiful human who I'm so proud to call a friend, and I am excited to bring him on. Along with, I would like to mention that we also have Wyn Wiley, who also known as Pattie Gonia, on the show. So Wyn and Pattie will be joining us on the show today. Pattie is a professional homosexual, a queer environmentalist, hence why you can imagine why we clicked on a lot of things there. The environmentalist piece of me was geeking out over having Pattie on the show. And Pattie is really into building community for our planet. Wyn is also a photographer, which we don't talk about the photography that much, but you get to have both of them in on the conversation. And it was just a beautiful conversation with lots of different areas. I didn't get to cover everything I wanted to cover, but I think you will enjoy what we have coming. So without any further ado, let's meet and thank one of our partners for this episode. And we'll be right to the episode with Wyn, Pattie, and Ryan. Friends, I am still reveling in the fact that we are working at Running For Real with Allbirds. I have been loving this company since I first heard about them, and I'm really excited about working with them and just seeing what they are able to do as they change the running community. So after years of researching and tinkering, Tim and Joey came up with this revolutionary wool fabric made specifically for footwear that gave an entirely new category of shoes inspired by natural materials and an ongoing mantra to create better things in a better way. Now, they keep things simple. They don't want to have flashy logo or senseless details, just comfortable shoes. And let me tell you, they are very, very comfortable. I wear them all day, every day. If you see me out and about in a pair of shoes, 95% of the time, unless I'm out on a date with Steve, maybe even sometimes then, I am wearing my Allbirds Tree Dashes. They are made from natural materials in favor of those cheaper synthetic alternatives. and they are determined to change things. They just did a partnership, as I mentioned recently, with Adidas, and I was able to run a race in them recently, and I loved them. They felt so fast. I felt really good. They were really comfortable, and that is called the Futurecraft Footprint. Now, these are hard to get hold of, but you have to be ready when they drop. Although there will be more coming available in the next few months. So pay attention to what I am saying, and also to the All Birds website if you are interested, or my email newsletter, and you will be able to find out more there. Now, as I mentioned about the materials, they use a lot of wool, they use a lot of sugar, they use a lot of trino, and other materials that are like recycled bottles, recycled cardboard, castor bean oil, and just really always thinking about every single step. Now I've been working alongside this company, I finally feel like I'm part of something. Now I don't have a special code for you right now, I just want to let you know about this company. So go check it out for yourself. You can just go to allbirds.com. I don't have a code for you right now, I'm not trying to sell you anything, I just want to alert you to what this company are doing. If they have been able to partner with Adidas and get them to create this super shoe that was only 2.94 kilograms of carbon per pair, when the industry average is 15 for that Futurecraft footprint, they are doing big things, they are changing things, and I'm so proud to be a part of this. So go to allbirds.com to go check it out. Oh, and they do have kids shoes, so if you have young kids, go check them out. I have a pair for Bailey, and we love being twins, so go check it out. Thank you again to Allbirds. Hi friends, just a quick note to say that there is some swearing in this episode. We have not bleeped it out because we feel it was an important piece of the conversation and just being able to speak authentically. So we have left them in there, but I wanted to let you know so that if you have some young ones around, or if you are not comfortable with swearing, you can put some headphones on or choose to listen to something else. But let's get on with the interview and go meet Wyn, Pattie, and Ryan. Ryan, Wyn, I am so excited to welcome you to the Running For Real podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
I should also welcome Pattie to the conversation as well, as there are three of us. Yeah,
There are
four of us. I can't add. Math has never been my strong suit. Although, Wyn, I know you'll agree with this. Math is something that women are told they are not good at. And so I wonder how much of that is in my head, and I'm actually fine at math. But anyway, we'll get to that at a later point. Okay, I wanted to bring you both on. I am one of many who absolutely love seeing you two individually and what you're up to, but also as a couple. It is just so beautiful to see and watch, and I love it. Just there's a few people on social media who just tend to make everyone else lift it up, who even views it and make us feel good about who we are. And you are certainly one of those examples, or two or three of those examples. So I would love to get into a little bit about your relationship. But first, I would love for you to, can I make it a little bit uncomfortable on you and describe one another? Would you be willing to entertain me with that? If you could say who one another is.
I love that. I feel like this is like podcast therapy.
I didn't tell you we were going to do that either.
You can go first.
Okay, so we're describing each other.
Yes. For someone who has no idea who you are.
Okay, so Wyn/Pattie Gonia. I'm just going to describe Pattie because this is like the biggest personality here in the room today. Pattie is what she calls herself, a professional homosexual. If you look at her bio on Instagram, but she is a drag queen that focuses on bringing the intersectionality of environment and diversity and inclusion in the outdoors. So something that, as a runner and someone who spends a lot of time in the outdoors, look up to that work a lot. It's something that I aspire in that type of work to do. And yeah, Pattie is just a really fun person to be around, and she's silly, and she just brings a lot of light and energy to the room. So
Absolutely. That was wonderful. I love that.
yeah.
Would you say that's an accurate?
Wyn?
Yeah.
Oh, and Wyn, Wyn is a very, comes from Nebraska. So that is something that we share a lot because we both come from like small towns growing up in our childhood. But Wyn comes from, you know, a lot of other similar backgrounds as I have come from, such as like a religious background, etc. And Wyn is just a, you know, just a loving human. He is so comforting and, you know, really cares about like the people that he has in his life. So yeah, I think that's how I describe him.
Love that.
How I would describe Ryan Montgomery. I know two Ryan Montgomerys. I know Ryan the athlete, and I know Ryan my partner. And I think that a lot of both of those sides share a lot of the same qualities. I think that Ryan as a racer is so full of joy and happiness and genuine love for the sport he does. But I also think that he has such a genuine love for the people in his life too. He is literally a smile all the time. He cares so much about what he cares about. And he, I think, is working through a lot to find like the person he is. And we have a lot of conversations about the people we are. And I think are really open to learning new things and messing with systems and trying to change this world, which is very attractive to me. And I think is a backbone of a lot of the work I do, is how to make some good trouble happen. And he's just becoming a best friend of mine, which is very new in my life because I haven't dated anyone in like 6 years. So this is very new territory, but it feels really good to know I have a human, and I never thought that I would have a human that it honestly feels like we can be as open communication wise, but yet also I feel like learn how to do this because both of us don't know how to do this. I mean, we're literally figuring out, we're writing our own playbook and it's very much still in progress. So we'll see what happens.
Well, for people who are writing your own playbook, I mean, it's an impressive journey so far. And, you know, those of us along for the ride are absolutely loving it. And I love those descriptions of each other. And I love the way that you're looking at each other as you're saying those. Before we get into more of the running journey, the outdoor work and other things, how did you both meet?
We have recounted this story so many different times, and I think Wyn has forgotten some elements of this story. So I'm gonna lead with this story, and then Wyn, you can add commentary as you so choose. But I mean, I've been following Pattie Gonia for a while. And I think when we first started, I guess when Pattie started following Ryan is when I ran the Desert Solstice 24-hour race in 2020. And I placed second place there, and I made a recap post and I tagged Pattie. And I said I was channeling my inner Patagonia, which sounds so funny to say that now. But yeah, then Wyn followed me after that. And then for the subsequent months after that, we would casually reply to each other's stories, you know, like one-liners, et cetera, et cetera.
We're basic. Just the Instagram DM flirting happened.
Yeah, so then we would just like casually bop back and forth replying to stories. Most of the time me replying to his stories probably. And then fast forward to last March. And then what happened then?
I asked Ryan on a date. I just said next time he was in Bend to let me know, and I'd love to take him to dinner. And then he was like, okay, how about next week? And I was like, oh, are you going to be in Bend next week? And he was like, yeah, I'm going to be visiting friends. And I was like, this is a bullshit lie. And I told him there's no better term to say than this, but I cock-blocked myself. I literally was like, invited him to dinner in Bend. And then when he told me he was going to come the next week, I was like, I don't know if I'm worth the carbon emissions for you to come up just for a date. So we eventually did go on that first date.
So it wasn't the next week.
No, it was the next week.
It was like not the next week. It was like within like 2 or 3 weeks. But I had suggested that, I can come to Bend. I can like come see friends. Yeah.
Yeah. So he came up here. We literally got takeout. Ate it on my couch. I was so nervous to fart around him that I like had gas in my stomach. You know, when you like don't fart and then the gas leaks up into your stomach and it just ruins everything. So that happened. So I ate like 3 bites of food. It was so basic. And then, I was hooked.
We forgot an important fact. It was also my birthday.
Yeah, it was his birthday. He was like, so no pressure. It's my birthday today. And I was like, what?
Wait, didn't tell you till he was there?
No,
it was like the day before.
Yeah.
It was the day before. So
yeah, when we walked to the little market down the street and he bought me a cheesecake and like a brownie, maybe. I don't remember.
That's good.
But yeah, it was just a really chill evening and we just chatted a lot. It was fun.
And then in true gay form, our second date was a 10-day long date where I was in Salt Lake City and flew to Salt Lake City to spend time with him. And I was like, well, I'm screwed. I really like this kid. I love this kid. And yeah, it was definitely the most unexpected twist and turn of life because we literally both bought houses and we're both the like strong, independent woman who don't need no man like moment. You know, we were like, we're going to focus on our art form or our sport. Yep. So like Ryan moved to the mountains to run. I moved to Bend to pursue drag full time. And then I think we realized and remind each other all the time that life isn't just the work you do or the sport you do, but it's having a person to spend time with. And
yeah,
I know it sounds weird to say, but I feel like people are those reminder, at least for me, that like there is more to life than just the work we do or the sport 100%. We do. And yeah, so that was an interesting moment to meet each other when we did. And, we've been figuring out long distance ever since, but it really works for us.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to. And Ryan, you've only bought your house less than a year ago, was it? Or just over a year ago?
Yeah, I went under contract in March and I closed in May, and then Wyn closed on his house in January.
March was when you met, right?
March, April. Yeah.
It was the same time.
Yeah, literally same time. Yeah.
That's how it's meant to be, I suppose. Yeah, I love that. And let's go into that just a little bit before we go into the running. You mentioned there, Wyn, about like realizing, we've already, I can't even remember if we said this before or after, or once we started recording, but like how we often feel like we have to be on the hamster wheel. We have to be constantly going up in our career, doing things to be better, when actually you hear time and time and time again, people who are at the end of their lives say, all that mattered was my relationships. So how do you keep yourself reminded of that, especially someone like you who has this career that is on this like skyrocketing trajectory? How do you keep that in your head? I mean, Ryan helps, obviously.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think I'm like the first and also last person that should speak on this because I'm actively the most terrible at it. And also I feel like learning a lot or very aware of it. But yeah, I just think that there's a lot of forces in our lives that I think we don't realize. And a lot of big ones for me are just capitalism and its powers for me to think that my only thing that's worthwhile is my work product or, what I achieve or what I do. And I see that a lot in the running world that people feel like until they have the badges of a sponsorship or, a title under their name that all their running is for nothing, and I feel that too. It exists in every world. It exists in the drag world too. If you're not popping out another drag look or if you're not releasing a new project, well, then you're failing. And I think it's really interesting when I like look back at years in my life, like, yes, I remember the work projects, but I remember the time off 10 times more than I remember my time on. And I think, yeah, for me too, this is like a lot of deep layers, but because of my queerness and because I was told since I was a kid that I had no value or less value because I was gay. And to quote everyone in my middle school and high school, like a faggot that was going to amount to nothing. What I learned was my trauma response was achievement. Like, so yes, I love achievement. And it also is my trauma response because I wanted to rewrite that story. I didn't want to be known as the queer kid. I wanted to be known as, at that time, like the photographer. And so I picked up a camera and started taking photos and started like trying to overcompensate with value. And I think there's a lot of that I see in running world too. I think, what is healthy relationship with their ego? I don't know. I'm on that journey. We'll see if I ever figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. So much of the world puts so much value on the outputs or the outcomes of like what you do and not necessarily the journey or the story. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Tina, you know this so well in the running world, but so much work goes into just getting to a start line where you feel like you are able to like compete. And then, there's so many variables that happen, and, you might put all your eggs into this basket for this one race and for this entire year. And, what if you roll your ankle? So much work has gone into that moment, and then you just feel invalidated and you forget all the work and accomplishments you had along the journey. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I feel that a lot, and I'm sure when you probably feel that too, when people look at your drag and just want to see the, what's the next thing Pattie's going to do? What's the next event she's going to host, So it's hard to justify that sometimes.
And it's got to keep one-upping yourself, right? Like Pattie, it's got to be bigger and better and more glamorous, and and for you, Ryan, or for me, it's like got to for me, it's got to be like got to get bigger and bigger and bigger guests on the show. Or running, it would be like you won Javelina, and so like, okay, well, what do I win next? What's the next one that I go to? And there's no end in sight.
Yeah, it's so crazy, and we're all so caught up in it. Like it is definitely I don't know. It's interesting. So I'm very new at having eyes on the running world. Very new. I am very fascinated with how it works and how it goes, and really how it's like such like a metaphor for life in a way. And I know y'all know that, but we were watching some friends who ran in what was the race in Texas that just happened?
Bandera 100K. It's one of the golden ticket races.
Yeah. So we were watching that race, and our friend Adam Mary was in it. And Adam is such a fucking rock star. Like, you should have him on this podcast. He is amazing. We love him. And he DNF'd after the first 50-mile lap and did not finish.
50K lap.
50K lap. I don't know running things. After the first 50K lap. And, I think there's watching him, what he posted on his Instagram story, being like, I ran my race and today like wasn't my day. And that was such a healthy way, I think, of just being like, had all the sport in the world, like felt great out there. And then I didn't feel good. And so I stopped, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a disappointment. But I ran my race. I think was a really powerful sentence. And I think about that a lot in life. It's like, I don't know, it seems cliche and so fucking Pinterest quote to be like, it's not about the destination, it's the journey, but really it is. And also like, how can we remind ourselves of that? Like when we're in it, cause it's really easy to have that perspective after the fact, but how about when we're in it, to almost like let it go if it's not going to be, So I think about that like too in my life with backpacking trips. Like it's never about the mileage. It's never about all this shit that I think it is. It's about like the people, and it's about like the love of a thing. And I see that in Ryan. I am very surprised at that in Ryan, how much Ryan is able to enjoy his sport. And really when he's out there, like actually enjoy it. And also what I will say is he can enjoy it because he's fast. So AKA he can run in the daylight while everyone is running in the nighttime most of the time. So I saw this meme that was literally like elites, and it was like sees all the beautiful view, and then it was like everyone that's not elite, and it was just a black photo of just like darkness. And I'm like, that's why you enjoy your sport so much. You see shit, right?
I think that's very true. Yeah. You said about Adam there, and that vulnerability that shows to be able to say that is really powerful, because Ryan can attest to this. In the running world, it's very easy to find those excuses and say this happened or that happened, or just picking things, anything to say that it wasn't. It just wasn't my day. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. Oh my
gosh. Yeah. You don't have to have a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that he was able to say that, and that inspired you as well with, looking at your own life, because actually that's interesting you mentioned that, because when I was looking through your feed yesterday, Pattie, I was, going not way back, but like I was looking through things. Definitely the most research I've done in quite a while, because I was just getting sucked into video after video. But it was abundantly clear that for you, it is about the relationships. Like there was so much joy and so many of those joyful moments. Yes, there was the, really impressive videos that obviously took hours and hours of work to do, but there was a lot more moments of laughing alongside people, or seeing people that just lit you up. And so I really felt like you do a great job of that. And just want to recognize that, because it's apparent that while you still think you're on your journey, you're definitely quite far along compared to maybe some of us.
Thanks for that reminder. I have amazing people around me, for real. Like Ryan's one of them, but I think about my chosen family a lot, and they've taught me a lot about slowing down and enjoying it. And I think I really look for North Star people in my life, or I don't know. One of my favorite authors, like, this is such a random tangent, but it makes sense in my brain. But one of my favorite authors talks about how like people are like keys, and they hold keys to unlock different sides of you. And some people are janitors. They hold a lot of keys that unlock a lot of different sides of you. And I have found a lot of that with Ryan. I find a lot of that with friends, and really the journey of Pattie, because I have people who unconditionally love me for me. Unbeknownst to me, I had people in my life that told me they love me every day, but it was always conditional on me not being my true self. And so I sacrificed a lot of myself to make them happy, because I thought that was love. And I'm thankful that I'm learning now that love is different.
Yeah. Something I've learned about dating Wyn is that his life is very full of people. Dating this human means dating like so many like stands full of other people. And what's interesting though is I've learned so much about the depth of relationships and the meaningfulness of like, what is this relationship, and like really analyzing, is this relationship surface level? Is your friendships like actually acquaintances or not? Something I've learned with Wyn's friend group, which again, massive, is that they're like very deeply rooted and like very emotionally invested friends. And it's made me like think very introspectively about like my own friend groups. And I think this is very common with like running friends, like our running groups. Like oftentimes we have friends that are just like our running acquaintances, and we only like meet up to run. And perhaps like there's not actually a ton of depth there. And it just made me like very interested to like think about like, oh, maybe there isn't like a lot of depth in some of my friendships, and maybe there actually are just acquaintances. And maybe they actually aren't, serving me in the ways that I like actually need.
Yes.
And it's made me like segment like friends in my life that like, okay, this person like serves like a running purpose in my life, but maybe there's a gap in like the depth of like my friends, And so it's just been very interesting to like observe that from like the lens of Wyn's life.
Thank you to Athletic Greens for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast, and for keeping me strong and ready to take on whatever sicknesses, illnesses, bugs are in the air. I feel confident going out into the world because I have Athletic Greens. They have a product that I use literally every day, AG1. I started using it because I wanted to make myself be able to fill in the gaps that I wasn't getting with my diet. We can try as hard as we like to get ourselves optimized and really looking after those, all the critical foods and groups that we want to be getting in each and every day. But let's be honest, when I started looking at that way, trying to get in every little vitamin and every kind of food I could, that's when I started going down a path of obsessive thinking about food and just really taking that clean eating too far. I love Athletic Greens because it means I can have a supplement that tastes great, I don't have to take 27 different vitamins and pills to get myself the amount that I need each day. It's one scoop every morning, and that is it. So with that one scoop of delicious athletic greens, you are absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, adaptogens to help you start your day right. That special blend is going to support your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, aging. All the things we need to be working well for us to reach our peak as a runner, or just to maintain our life with running being a part of it. It is lifestyle friendly. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar, so you don't have to worry about that being an additional sugar base in your life. It's going to support your mental clarity, your alertness. It's going to support your sleep quality and recovery. It's basically the one thing that uses all the best things. It uses the best of the best products based on the latest science and with constant product iterations and third-party testing. I have been using Athletic Greens for, I think, 3 or 4 years right now, and Athletic Greens wants to make it really easy for us to reclaim our health, arm our immune system with convenient and daily nutrition, especially now we are in the thick of flu and cold season. 1 scoop in a cup of water every day, that's it. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/Tina. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/Tina. Go take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Yeah, I feel like I've been doing a very similar thing. And actually, I can't remember, I wish I could, who said about it, but I heard recently about how there's, it might be like one of the like Simon Sinek kind of, self-helpy people, but I cannot remember which. I'll make sure I put it in the outro of who that was saying about like friendships. You have purpose friendships. They're there to teach you something you need to learn within your life. You have seasonal friendships who are there for a period of your life, depending on where you live, or maybe depending on what you're going through. And then you have those like deep rooted lifetime relationships that are the ones, as you said, they go very deep. They're very, very strong. And the roots are just like held together. But that freed me up for some of the relationships I have in my life to not be like, I don't have to make everyone deep rooted, because it just doesn't have the capability to do that. So I love that you're going through that as well.
Yeah.
Ryan.
And that realization makes you realize like, oh, it's okay. Like, it's okay that, we go through this process of, okay, you served a purpose in my life and I've learned from something. And now there's another set of people in my life that have other purposes.
Yeah. Anything to add, Wyn, before we go on?
Well, I was just going to say quite the opposite in my life is that I often find that the people that I am closest to, I often do projects with or work with or like purpose things with. And it's really hard for me to have relationships that are just relationships when we're not collaborating together and working together. And that can be its own form of like unhealthy in a way too, because you want to preserve the relationship, and I think a lot of the close people in my life, like I work with, they are like my team at Pattie. They are people that I used to do photography projects with or nonprofit projects with. So I think there's a balance, or it's like a yes and, it's like interesting on both ends of the spectrum. So, I often find too, it's like good to have friends that aren't like necessarily all in your world, like if I was a runner, I wouldn't want all my community or friends to be running things, I would be like SOS. So I think there's obviously a balance there, but it's interesting on the other side too.
Yeah. So I want to go on to talk about when you mentioned you're not, fully in the running world, you're obviously learning a whole new level of runner lingo and what runners are and do and the intensity of it, especially dating a professional athlete. Ryan, winning Javelina, that was a huge race for you.
I got second, by the way.
Second at Javelina? Oh,
yes.
Right. Good. I'm sorry.
But thank you for the compliment.
Yeah, I knew that. I don't know why I was sorry.
No, it's all good.
Thank you for correcting me there. Okay, share it. That was a huge race for you. You were, the the footage of you finishing and just as Wyn said earlier, the joy you were experiencing during the race was abundantly clear. Tell us about why that race meant so much to you and why it was so joyful, especially, coming in at the end.
I shared this actually on another podcast with Dylan Bowman, but I think Javelina was such a pinnacle event for me because for those that aren't familiar with the Javelina 100 mile race, it is a race that happens during Halloween weekend. So it's an event where it invites people to dress up and to express themselves in like the way that they so please. But because of that, it becomes like this big celebration of diversity and uniqueness of expression. And that, I mean, as someone who identifies as like a queer trail runner who, likes to paint his nails and maybe like occasionally wears a crop top when I run, I loved the energy there. So I approached Javelina as a way of like just celebrating who I am and just having fun with my crew and the people around me. So Wyn was able to come and crew me, and some of my good close friends that I also work with, Anna Mae Flynn and Margaret Spring. And we just approached this run as just like a celebration for life and everything that I've accomplished up until that point in the year. And I think that type of energy and the mentality of not having the expectation to win, well, obviously it was in the back of my head that I had that goal of like wanting to win and get a golden ticket for Western States. But that type of energy and celebration, I think, just carried me throughout the day. And, that ended up in my favor because I was able to, run a great race, 13 and a half hours and, get second place. So,
yeah.
Were you able to keep, sorry. Oh,
no, you're good. You're good. No, I was just going to say, something that I think Ryan lives out and speaks to a lot is that races aren't this pressure cooker of you have to prove yourself. Races are a celebration of all the training you put in and time you put in. Mm-hmm. It should be a fun time with friends. And as someone who's very new to the ultra running community and trail running community, I had no idea how much of just like a fun time races were. Like races, yes, are races and it's competition, but it's also just fun. And I think I'm really excited for the running community to really move in that direction or more in that direction, because I know there are some races that are very serious and very cutthroat. And
I was going to say, the world I'm from.
Road running is much more serious, I would say.
Yes. But I think it's fun. It's cool. It is a celebration and it should be fun for the whole crew. And I think that, if I was running 100 miles, I would look forward to seeing some fun at like the aid stations. And I think there's a lot that like really the running community can learn from Javelina itself. But just from other races, I just think there's more to life than competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd learned that lesson the hard way. But Ryan, with that, you said that, the goal was to win it. But we've just talked about realizing that essentially, as I learned, as I said, the hard way, there is no point in doing it if you're not enjoying it. But how did you keep that balance there? Because obviously you are a sponsored athlete. You want to be able to perform. Winning is always, no matter what we do, winning is always going to be the thing that people, look to. How did you keep that in your head that you wanted to keep enjoying it, even when it became clear that you weren't going to win the race?
I think it's like a yes and kind of statement and response and mentality, because I mean, number one, I'm privileged to be able to have a fitness level where I get to be considered a professional athlete. But what I find oftentimes where I see, there's a lot of young people that are entering ultra running world in the sport. And I think a lot of them are entering with the mentality of, I have these huge expectations for myself to do X, Y, and Z and win this and win that. And when their expectation is not met, there's so much weight that comes with that failed expectation that it ruins their perspective about their sport and who they are as an athlete. And, my sport is a lifestyle. Like I am number one, like ultra running and running as a lifestyle for me. And second is like competition and performance. And I think making sure that I have that mindset as I approach my sport has been fundamental, because I want to, be a 50-year-old, a 60-year-old, a 70-year-old running races still. And, having that mindset is going to make my sport and myself like so much more sustainable. Because I don't want to be like an athlete just for a period of time and then like retire. Like I want it to be like my full self and my full body and my full life. And I think I see a lot of athletes, they jump in the sport and they jump out really quick because they get burnt out because of that really harsh expectation. And it's unfortunate that I think a lot of brands, I think maybe other influencer stakeholders in our sport like put so much emphasis on like your results. I remember the first time I tried to pursue like a sponsorship with a nutrition company, they said like, well, what have you accomplished? Like that was the first question they asked me, versus like, who are you, Ryan, as a question. And so I think there's a change in narrative that's happening overall. But again, I think you can't keep yourself so serious or treat yourself so serious, and just remember, like, why is it that you're running? Like, number one, ask yourself that question. Is that your main motivator every day? And if it's because you want to win a race, then I would question, consider like, what are your main motivators? Because, I'm in this for the lifestyle, and that's like what I preach to.
As you said, it's not sustainable to have that approach for a long time. So I love asking that at the beginning. And what are some reflections you've had, kind of diving into this crazy world of runners with their rituals and their just the way that we do things, and then getting to be full in that experience? I think you crewed at UTMB first, right? And then also at Javelina. So give us some things that you've noticed from about runners or about Ryan.
Wyn has learned a lot.
I have a lot of opinions about the ultra running community. So UTMB was my first taste, and wow, what a taste, to see ultra running on the world stage.
Yeah.
And to that, I just want to say, like, wow, I'm so proud of my boyfriend, but wow, I'm so fucking proud of Courtney Dewater. Like, what the fuck? I stan her, drag inspiration, like... I think it's so cool to see a female changing shit up in the sport like she is. And
sure.
I know there's a lot of other women out there that are doing it too, but it was so cool to watch and to see. It definitely was really beautiful to see. I feel like people from literally around the world come together to do a race, especially after a pandemic. And well, not after, during a pandemic, let's call it what it is. And I think it was in that weird summer bubble where like COVID not was like on pause. There's so much privilege in that, but where there was this little window of like, we're getting back a little bit to normal life before this fall and winter happened. And so all that to say, it was just like a lot of joy. I love meeting Ryan's friends. I think it's like so funny though. Like there's so many like funny things I think about like the ultra running community that I'm just like, this is so middle school lunchroom. Like everyone in their little like sponsorship or brands like run around in like their own like little sorority or fraternity or like little lunch table that's like, we're sitting at the Solomon table. Like it's so silly to watch. It's like literally middle school like lunchroom, and it's fascinating to me really how many kind and amazing people there are, and also how many people like run around like like they have like the biggest egos in the world, and I'm like, yo, you are maybe-ish kind of famous in a niche world that like only the people here care about. Like it's so funny to me, and also it's a really good reminder for me because like people in the outdoor space are like, oh my gosh, Pattie, and I'm like, do you realize like how nichely, weirdly like hyper niche Pattie is? And I don't know, it's just so funny, like me walking through, it's weird. Anyway, I thought a lot about that stuff, but
yeah.
Also, there's lots of really good croissants there, so that's fun.
Okay,
I learned that ultra runners are really into food. That is a thing. Yep.
You would hope Ryan,
so. Yes, exactly. What else have I learned? Ryan eats around like 5,000 calories, like on like race day periods or like after race day. Like I was like, wow, you are putting it down.
And do you think, wow, that would be cool to be able to do that? Or is it like, oh, I have no desire to like just constantly be eating like that?
Okay, I see what you're doing and turning this on me, and I'm getting into running. And I really enjoy joining Ryan on his final 3 miles of a run because I feel like he's tired enough to where he like runs at my pace and doesn't feel slowed down. And I will say, like, I know it sounds so cheesy, but like Ryan has really helped me fall in love with running, and I run now more than ever. I'm like a recovering toxic masculinity gym gay person. So for those listening that maybe are listening to queer people talk for the first time, there is like a huge thing in the gay community around like toxic masculinity and really people overcompensating with masculinity to make up for people telling them that they're queer and never going to be masculine enough. So all that to say, that definitely was a part of my life growing up in Nebraska. And so running for me has been a very healthy way to engage in doing something like physical and also mental as well. And yeah, so I like have been running. I've been trying to run like every day or every other day, especially in 2022. I'm such a resolution basic bitch, but I've ran almost 40 miles this year so far, which is massive for me.
He has a goal to run 1,000 miles this year.
Okay, yes, and we probably won't reach that goal, but I think it's good to have it and to at least just, aspirationally have in the distance and also be like totally okay if I like run 950 and be like, whatever, like I did it, you know? Mm-hmm. So, I really like running. It's good time for myself. It's really good time. Yeah, I really do run for myself. And I have like a love-hate relationship with Strava. I'm like, I am what I call like a riker, like a run hiker. So like I love me some running and then I love me some hiking or walking or pausing to Instagram or like doing random other things. So like I'm not in it for the time, like whatever mileage of like running an 8-minute mile for 5 miles. Like I'm like, whatever. I'm just like, do.
I think that's kind of how we want to, I mean, Ryan, you can speak to this yourself, but like obviously you're going to have your important days of running, but surely you want to get to that point where or if you're not already there, where it's okay if you do walk sections and take in the scenery a bit more, if you feel like it on that day.
Yeah, I think that's again going back to like sustainable training. Like I approach every single day as like an adventure. So, you know, I'm never afraid to like stop to take a photo or like, you know, oh, I see this interesting like point of view on my run. I like want to share it on my Instagram. So I think it's definitely okay to pause and just like take in the moment.
Thank you to Inside Tracker for sponsoring not only this episode, but supporting us at Running For Real and myself since 2016. I have been working with this company since then. They have done a lot for the running community and a lot for us and just helping us to keep better track of our health. As I said, I've been using this since 2016 and I absolutely geek out over my stats over time. It is as simple as going to get your blood work done at a Quest facility, which they are everywhere. Going to get that blood work done, your results come back. It tells you where you are within each of the zones of like optimization. You always want to be trying to move towards there. And I love looking, I'm looking at it right now, the numbers changing over time to see which ones I've moved into optimize. Some of them I've lost track of. And then when you do fall off and you fall into needs work, the needs work or at risk category, you can then see immediately on your screen, there are healthy foods that it recommends for that exact thing of how to get you optimized. There's also the science there. If you want to learn about that, you can read their blog. They'll tell you a bit more about it. And I love how you can just make it really easy for you to find ways to do it. Like I'm looking at my lipid group is a little bit, it's not been ideal for a while now, but it gives me some healthy foods that I should be adding more of to my diet. have to admit I haven't been the best at adding those foods, but they are simple ones. I mean, Hubbard squash, avocado, acorn squash, raspberries, those are amazing foods to eat. It's just my laziness at times that has not allowed me to do that. But that said, I have been working really hard on optimizing my numbers, as has everyone who tries Inside Tracker. Those of you who use it see how special this is, see how much this company cares about our running community. And this is the best way for us to keep track of how our health is, how we are doing on the inside. Because using our weight, using BMI, none of those markers really tell us the truth, whereas your blood work really does. It is amazing to use. You can get 25% off as one of my dear friends by going to insidetracker.com/Tina. That's insidetracker.com/Tina to go get that really special deal and to keep an eye on your health moving forward. Okay, so let me ask you both a question related to that before we move on. I've talked a few times on this show about how it's difficult when you do have that mentality not to get caught up in your entire run, hike, walk, whatever is all about trying to find a spot to rest your phone or the best picture to take. Or how do you both not get wrapped up in that of like, just not being in your run or your walk or your hike because you're thinking about what you're going to say about it afterwards?
Interesting.
During.
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like your wheels are turning, but I would say when I first started running, to some extent, I used to think about like, what's going to be my Strava like title for this run, and
yes,
like I feel like as a trail runner, there's so many beautiful views that I like want to share. And that's really has been like always my motivator of like, oh, I want people to see what I'm seeing. And so that's what I know, like many years ago, I would just take so many photos because I was like, wow, I can share this and I can share that. I can share this. And I would take maybe some occasional photos of myself too. But no, I think when I run now, I'm just always like observing and like curious to see like what I find. Like whether it's like in New York City, I'm like, I wonder what I've run into today. Or if I'm on a trail, I'm like, I wonder what I'm going to experience today. And so I think that type of like curiosity has like made me just interested to see what I run into. And, you know, if I happen to be able to pull out my phone in time to like take an interesting shot, then that happens. But it's not like my main goal anymore, but it's always like, oh, cool. Like I see something interesting, like I'm going to take a photo of it. So I think there's been a shift of like my goal. It's more of just like, I'm going to see what I learned today and like what I see today has been my shift.
There's so much I could say on this. Like, I think about this like from such like a high level and such a micro level all the time, but I just think it's fascinating the time we're living at in the world of like the intersection of real life and internet life. And internet life is no longer just the internet. It's literally like a second life and a place where we spend 50% of our time or more looking at a screen or ingesting some sort of media in a day. And so I think there's a lot of like shame that's come along with that. A lot of people that have been like, you're not really enjoying the outdoors if you're Instagramming it, or like, if you really love this, and I'm like, hate that judgment. I hate that shit so much. I'm like, if that brings you joy, it brings you joy. If you feel connected with people in that way, feel connected, like do what makes you happy. I do not like shame. I do not like judgment. And I think there's a lot that I've internalized in that. And I think there's like a lot of beauty in like both sharing your outdoor experiences and also like keeping them so just for yourself, and not to like keep them from the world, but to just, hold them close, or to spend time disengaged from that world. I do, like my community sponsors a course every year, a NOLS course for 15 queer youth to get outdoors for the first time. And for those people that don't know what NOLS is, it's basically an outdoor education school. It's like an outdoor college, and they do everything from like 2-week to like whole semester to whole year long, like backpacking courses or canoeing courses or sailing courses or climbing courses. And one of the most beautiful things I feel like about NOLS courses is phones aren't allowed. And so really you are where your feet are. And there is something so special to being like, this was the most special experience and no one will understand or be able to see what we saw and experience what we felt. And I look for moments to disengage from the world like that and to be hyper present so much. And I also go outside to connect with the internet world because there is such a queer community at my fingertips that's not available to me in my everyday life in the outdoors. There is such a way that I can be creative that I really enjoy, and that's an art form that I do. So yeah, I think I'm always between those two worlds, and oftentimes on runs, especially, like runs are for me. Like, yeah, I might Instagram my run every now and again, but I think it's so funny, like what the internet says about you. Like people like shit on everyone online all the time, and we all think we understand each other and have no idea who each other are. But like people all the time will be like, if Pattie actually enjoyed nature, they would be out just enjoying it and not like trying to like, whatever, post it on the internet for some sort of clout or fame. And I'm just like, there is a whole world of mine outdoors that you will never see and don't see. And yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. I think we all kind of have these questions all the time. Yeah, like you said, Ryan, like, what am I going to title this travel run, or what am I going to, post about this, or what can be the marketing story that I push today for how I'm at the cutting edge of my sport and athletics, especially for pro ultra runners. And I like makes me want to vomit, it's like vomit because like that is also my life, like I'm not, I'm so there too, this is not Wyn/Pattie shits on running community. This is like, yo, I'm there and I feel that in such a different way. And I really wonder where we will go from here. I think a whole other soapbox I could hop on is the sponsorship world and just how shit backwards it is. I will shit on that structure until the end of time because it's not sustainable. Yeah. It is not sustainable for athletes to be so worried and concerned, truly S-ing the D of brands in order to get sponsorships and dollars enough just to do what they love, especially when it's such a cutthroat world and capitalism creates that vacuum that there's not enough space for both of you. You're going to have to kick someone else off this island in order for you to be there. And I dislike models like that. I think there is enough for everyone. And I don't know about that intersection with the outdoor space or outdoor industry or running industry right now. I also just think that like we oftentimes look to brands, and I see the ultra running community looking to brands all the time to like fix their problems. And what I just want to tell everyone is no one's coming to save you. No one's coming to fix your problems. You have to be the one to step up and truly be the change you want to see. Mm-hmm. And I think there needs to be a lot more individual ownership in the runner space of, no, if I want queer community to happen, I'm going to have to step up and do it, whether a brand's going to give me the money to do it or not. If I want this community for female runners in my small town, I'm going to have to make it. No one's going to make it. And that might be awkward. That might be hard. You're going to have to start small. It's going to be a learning curve. It's going to just be like running. Like you're going to suck at it first and then you're going to get better, but like you have to do it. Or you can collaborate with other people who are good at those things and use your special talents and skills to change this world, because we know things are messed up and we know it needs to change.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, and so many directions I could go.
Very much on a soapbox.
No. It actually ties into a few different areas I wanted to talk about, but I think from there, the best place to go would be, you're both passionate about what you've just been talking about there, getting more diverse athletes into the sport of running. You've both talked about how it needs to be from the top down, not just putting photos of people, of diverse people in media or in catalogs and things. But how does that work with what you just said there, like people stepping up on their own individual basis? But for them, especially a lot of people who feel like they're putting so much out and they're not getting any value or compensation or anything for their time yet. So we need the brands to step up and support, especially at the leadership level. But then for those people, they may have a full-time job, they may have all these other things that they just can't find the time to be able to do that at the base level by themselves first. So what are some of the things you've both thought about with how this can be changed for just anyone listening who maybe isn't someone who is in an underrepresented group, but they want to be a part of the change?
Yeah, I think that's a very good Wyn question first, and then I'll share my thoughts after.
Yeah. Wow. Such a good question. Okay. I have two thoughts. One is industry and like business and brands, and one is about individuals. So I'll share the brand one first. The day and age of just sponsoring athletes is like done. Yes. It's over. We need to sponsor and put dollars behind community leaders, community voices.
Agreed. People
that are pushing not just an industry, but a community forward. Like it's over. Like it's literally 10 years antiquated. Like you go anywhere outside of the outdoor space and everyone else is getting it but the outdoor. And I feel like running space, it's so weird to me how antiquated it is. So I'm going to push for that to change. I'm going to push for dollars to be put behind people who aren't just serving themselves, but are serving their communities. I have so much respect for people in the ultra running space and in the running space, but is that money just lining your pocketbook so that you can have a nice cushy life? Or are you truly using those dollars as actual community service dollars to go out and carry out projects you want to see in this world? So that's my challenge and my invitation to the industry. And then for individuals, I think that like for so long in my life, I thought that I couldn't change the world, or I couldn't have an effect, or I couldn't make a difference because, well, one, capitalism loves to tell you that you can't change things. So rich people can keep on making money and powers and forces can be what they are. But two, I thought that because I thought that, you know, allyship or advocacy or being a community voice was reserved for people only if they had like 1 million followers, or only if they had a blue check mark by their name, or only if they went to school for this stuff. And I think what I'm learning now through watching so many people do this is allyship in action. What it actually looks like is hyperlocal. What it actually looks like are every single day 1% or even 0.01% changes in your life, and seeing that snowball in your life. What I'm seeing allyship in action actually look like is people taking their privileges and talents and skills and unique access to communities and people and truly making change happen. Because never for a day underestimate the ability that all of us have to be a voice that other people listen to, that like they'll never listen to my voice, but they'll listen to yours, you know. Never underestimate how much, you know, if you're not from an underrepresented community or from like a systemically excluded community, how much we need allies and how much impact your privilege can make. You know, we all have jobs and roles where we can make a difference. We all have roles within our communities that can make a difference. And yeah, it doesn't look like burning it all down, but it looks like prescribed burning what doesn't work in order to make room for what can be. And if we can build this world, we can build another.
Although you mean not literally, right? We're not going to Mars to...
You know, we might. Who knows at this point? Who knows? So yeah, I think we're at a really interesting intersection where like we're finally realizing like we can do this. But then I think it's like, oh my gosh, like that sounded so encouraging. And then like going out there and being like, okay, but like, what the hell do I do? So, I mean, this is so I'm not trying to like plug this. I hate when people like plug things on podcasts, but next week I'm launching a nonprofit that is literally all about that. It's all about free education for how to activate as an ally and to create a community for people to collaborate with. Because what I've also learned in like allyship and taking action is like, people think it can be very doom and gloom, or it has to be like, okay, like I'm summiting this mountain myself, when really what it is like beautiful collaboration and thinking about what change can we make as an ecosystem and what's possible when we work together. And yeah, I don't know. We have so much to learn from nature. Like nature knows everything that we as humans like don't. Like diversity isn't the only like key to an ecosystem surviving, but also thriving. Why are humans the only thing that doesn't get that? Why can we not see how mushrooms work and hold the whole entire forest together and use that as an example for leadership, to where like we know if one species dominates, it's parasitic and the whole thing is going to fall apart. You know, I don't know. I think there's a lot we can learn from nature to really remind ourselves that we are a part of nature.
Before I get your response, Ryan, just curious quickly there, when you said you hate people promoting things on podcasts, but isn't that a good example of something that is going to benefit? Like, wouldn't that be the ideal thing to promote?
Listen. My word of hate is not the right word. My word is like, I don't want to be that person that's like, and I perfectly teed this up to blah, because like so not a. No, it didn't. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weirdly perfect timing to really share that, like, yeah, we know we need to change things up, and also where do we go from here? And so I think that I basically just want to say, like, I can't just say that and then like leave people hanging. Like, I want to give people action steps and an ability and a community that can, where they can, like, you know, where they can actually do this.
Okay, so I will put a link in the show notes, but what is, tell the listeners the name, as you haven't actually said it yet. I know.
Yeah, it's called the Outdoorist Oath. So it's the Oath for short.
So what is it on social media for people to go find?
Yeah, it's at Outdoorist Oath. We are super original.
Well, you got it. That's I mean, that's impressive. You got that that username. So well done. Yeah. All right, Ryan, what would you add?
I am, because it's interesting because I'm at the crosshair of this type of discussion too, as you know, an ultra runner in our sport, but also like wanting to, you know, move the needle on the inclusion and diversity piece of our sport. And because I come from a strategy consulting background, like my head thinks like corporate America, like thinks like logically, like, okay, I need to create a proof of concept and like then present the pitch to a brand. And then that's how I'm going to partner. And that's how I'm going to get support to do something. And I keep running into this concept where like, I have all these ideas and I'm wanting to partner with, you know, my partners that support me in my running, but there really isn't like a proof of concept of like what I'm trying to create yet. And Wyn keeps telling me, he's like, Ryan, you need to go out and do it. Back to the point of what he's saying about, you know, what this looks like in practice is like hyper local people just doing this shit because they're so passionate about it. And then that creates the momentum. And then people like want to jump on board with that. And, you know, it's a learning curve. I'm learning, and it's scary because, you know, I think about where Wyn started with all of this. Like, he didn't have a playbook for any of this. Like, no one really knows what's happening. He just like did it. And then you have like this beautiful flower that he now has of all these people whom he works with and people whom he can leverage and partners. And he has that momentum. And I think that's something I look at and observe and say, wow, okay. So, you know, I'm at the point where, you know, you just have to build momentum somewhere. And like, that's where you can, you know, really do some of this type of work. So yeah, I think that's like a big takeaway I've seen in like Wyn's life and in my observation, that like brands really don't care about you. They care about like what you have to offer. And so, you know, if you're passionate about something, like you just got to go ahead and do it yourself. And like tap the people in your circle that, you know, are also passionate about that. So,
yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to what Ryan says. And I also think, so there's like yes, I just built it out of nothing, but that's not the truth. I built it out of a F ton of privilege and opportunity because yes, while I am queer, I am also, I'm white. I am straight passing when I'm not wearing 10 pounds of makeup. I come from economic privilege of a home where I never had to worry about money or food as a kid. I come from education privilege of having gone to college. I have privilege in really understanding like the back end of marketing world when it comes to an industry, because I used to be a creative director for tons of different brands before I hopped into Pattie world. So for me, why I bring this all up is to say that like I oftentimes think we think of privilege as like a bad thing, when really it can be such an opportunity and an invitation, and really the push to take action. And also, I think that we often think that everyone starts at the same starting line. And what I've learned in my life is that we don't. And oftentimes for me, yeah, privilege isn't a bad thing. It just means there's a lot less obstacles in my way than another person's way. And so what can I do with that, right? And I'm not saying that I'm the shining example of someone who's like done this. This has just been my life. But what I see in other people is that you can often use your privilege and the opportunities you have to make a lot of space for other people. And if a door is open for you, holding it open for other people.
Yes.
And really, truly, yeah, almost like Trojan horsing. And I think there's definitely chances where with privilege, you need to not only step up, but step back. But what I've learned is that really for me, it's not been about like coming into this industry, into this space and with just the gay agenda, but truly trying to create programs and opportunities for other people with a lot less privilege than myself to take up space in the room too. And that's meant me not taking opportunities and passing them off to other people. Mm-hmm. That's meant me using like my unique ability of being able to talk to all these marketing people who speak marketing speak and being like, listen, I'm going to design an influencer program for you to where you get your same KPI and still sell your shoes and do your thing, but you're actually going to make a community impact too. So that's how I do it. But there's so much that's possible for individuals too. And I think we need to like stop telling ourselves the story that like we've just built it out of nothing and look at this person go. There's a lot of privilege and a lot of things behind that. And also the other thing that your privilege can be an opportunity for you to take action.
Absolutely. Thank you. Ryan, anything final to add to that?
Just keep learning. I think that's like the biggest takeaway I've seen in my career, my running career. It's just like being curious and like asking questions. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, this is like such a advice that you hear as a kid, but like surround yourself around people that are like smarter than you. But there's a lot of truth to that, because I never want to be like the person that's the most privileged or the most smart or the, with the most connections in a room, because I want to like learn and grow. Mm-hmm. And I think that is like such a good advice for, if you're wanting to improve in anything in your life. So,
no, I think that's beautifully said, and something that we can all keep doing. I love, you've mentioned the word curiosity multiple times in this interview, Ryan, and I think that's so important that we do as much as we possibly can have that approach to living in everything that we are doing. So I love that kept coming into your vocabulary. I think, as we're rounding up on the time here, there's still tons of stuff I wanted to talk about. We'll have to save that for another time. But I just want to maybe talk about when you are a passionate environmentalist, you were on How to Save a Planet, my favorite podcast, which I just, that was just like the best
Aren't
episode
they amazing?
Ever. Oh my God.
I am obsessed with I just think the art form of radio is so fascinating, and they're so good at what they do. If anyone's listening and has not listened to How to Save a Planet, it's a work of art.
I would imagine most people listening, I've talked about that podcast extensively. So I would, obviously people coming from you, maybe not, but I think my end are probably like, yep. I've heard that podcast mentioned a million times. But for you specifically, I just would love for you to share something which I've talked about a few times on this show, but you really describe it so eloquently and in a way that I think people can digest, about algorithms, about how it's quite easy to look at a sponsored post or look at something that someone who you look up to, admire, value their content, grow from, learn from, curious about all the things we've talked about today, but see that either that like paid partnership with, or like see that like, you know, product somewhere on that picture, and it's easy to be like, ugh, eye roll and scroll on by. Can you just do your little spiel or tell us a bit about like why people can think differently next time they see it, if that is from someone they respect and value?
Yes, I may absolutely step on that soapbox for you. I think, you know, for me too, like before I got into this space, I would see, you know, sponsored content and I would just think like, oh, what pay, or like, why should I care, or like, what's happening? And I think as I've gotten to know and surround myself with a community of people who really the financial model they have access to is to be able to work with sponsors in order to fund the thing that they do or the community they do, is, wow, look at that person getting the dollars and the resources to do what they do for a living and to bring so much value into my life that I get to consume their content for free. Like, you know, it's such an interesting thing how we think that it's such a sellout move when really it's, wow, look at that person that I love truly landing a deal in order to provide for their family, or, you know, provide for their sport, or provide for the community they're building or that they're a part of. And so I think that reframe has been really important for me. I still struggle with it all the time as someone who does do partnerships and work, because I also don't think that people see all of the like hustle and work and effort it takes for people to be not only basically an athlete, but like a business manager and like a consultant and work with a brand, or maybe like truly through the partnership, educate the brand to do and be better. There's so much back end work behind partnerships that's so hard to talk about when it comes to online, because it's not flashy. It's not cool. You can't take a cool Instagram post of maybe the chance you got to open the aperture of this marketing officer at this company to see beyond what they have traditionally done in the past. So I don't know. I there's so much more to share there, but I just think I would really look to, I think we just need to judge people less in our society as a whole. And I think we need to really be rooting each other on, because we're all really trying out here. And that's, again, really easy for me to say and really a hard walk for me to walk, because I've been indoctrinated in like this culture that believes that I have to like, you know, tear people down or like be like, well, they got a partnership with Subaru and I didn't, like, why? You know, it's, you know, all the way to like, you know, we, even if it's not in sponsorship world, like just the comparison we do when we look at people online or in person, I just think, comparison's the thief of joy. Obviously, we all know this in the back of our minds, but I think that we can just be encouraging people and rooting them on. And I think there's a lot that's happening when brands work with individuals. There's a lot of power being transferred there, not just financially, but also with an opportunity for them to have access to a new platform. And we should really be encouraging that, especially when brands partner with people that have less privilege or more intersectionalities in their identity.
Absolutely. Ryan, anything to add?
No, just the fact that, you know, when you think about like yourself and like what you would want in like any situation, like if I had a new contract or a new opportunity or a new pursuit, like I want to be celebrated for that. Like I want to be congratulated. And so I think keeping like that in your head, like before you pass judgment or make a comment, like think about, you know, if I was in that person's shoe, like what type of messaging would I want, you know?
I appreciate that. Thank you. There's so many other things I wanted to talk about, but another time. Okay.
I'm good for another 15 if you are. I just have something at 9.
Well, I think
you can totally have something else if you want to.
No.
I don't know about you, Ryan. Are you good?
Yeah, maybe just a couple more minutes.
Okay. Well, I guess is there anything that, based on what we've talked about today, that has come through while we've been talking here, that you would like to remind the listeners of this podcast, who I would imagine most have, we've talked about privilege date, have a lot of different privileges going for them, are feeling like they are trying to continue to grow and improve, but sometimes it can be difficult. I know you've both talked about, you know, like homophobia or not understanding older generations, obviously ignoring the percentage of the population who wants to go back to 1950 again. What would you remind that person as they continue to try and learn and grow, but they're so afraid of making a mistake and saying the wrong thing or doing something that, we are, as you said, in that judgmental culture? What would you like to encourage that person?
Yeah. You want to go first, right?
I think this is an interesting question of allyship. How can I, show up for other people around me? And it kind of goes back to the theme that we've been talking about, which is, being curious and wanting to learn. Wyn and I experienced something interesting with my grandparents during the Thanksgiving holiday, where I think you saw this or heard about this, Tina, where they didn't want Wyn to come into their household. They said that I can come, but any partner of yours, gay, is not able to step foot into our house, which is the language they used. And I think that is the mindset of not wanting to learn or to ask questions or, separating something from this world in your life. And I think when we enter a space where we're prohibiting new information from coming in and to help us learn and grow is when I think there's something extremely wrong. So always the counsel and advice I give is, when you're met with otherness, when you're met with a difference, lead with curiosity and say, well, why is that? Or tell me more, or tell me more about yourself and why you think that way. And I think that is so much better to build a bridge rather than cause a crack between two people. That's something I learn every day with Wyn. We have a great relationship, but we also have our moments where, we're sassy to each other. And I think we have to remind each other to lead with curiosity and ask each other questions rather than, be judgmental at first. I think it's very easy for us to have initial reactions of being judgy or well, why do you think that? But it's changing our mindset of, well, why is that person thinking that way? And why do they think that way? Why do they want to act that way? And, just trying to build a bridge with people goes such a long way.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
That was great, Ryan. Thank you. That was really great. Little do people listeners know that we most of the time talk to each other in cat voices. So this is very professional.
Well, we have to have a little example of that before we go.
We will. We have a cat named Twinkie, and
oh my gosh, Twinkie.
Twinkie.
Where does Twinkie live?
Here in Bend.
Yeah,
Oregon,
in Bend.
with me.
Yeah, Twinkie is such a derpy cat and loves to sleep on our chests in bed.
Oh.
But yeah, you got to keep things lighthearted and meow at your partner every once in a while.
Yeah, I think that. I think what I would say to encourage anyone is there's so much out there that says that we should always do more and be more and try harder and we need allies to step up. And yes, that is true. That is so true. But also I think equally important is giving yourself time to I think fall in love with the thing you're wanting to advocate for in a way. I think we're just told to step up all the time for, our planet and to be more of an environmentalist or to step up all the time for each other. And I think we really forget the part of maybe unlearning a lot of harmful shit in our lives and or just forming relationships. One of my beautiful friends, Pinar, who runs this amazing organization called Queer Nature, says all the time, the revolution will be relational. And I think there is so much truth in that, because without relationships, any work you do as an ally or to change stuff up is going to feel just not fulfilled. But with relationships and with community and with collaboration, it's going to feel so sustainable. It's going to feel so good. And so I think that it's this simultaneous, I'm not saying pat yourself on the back if you feel you haven't stepped up yet, but I'm just saying you are enough, you are loved, form relationships, and then commit to action and take follow through. I think that it's really easy, again, without that relationship, to do the knee-jerk reactions of reposting something online or donating here. And those are amazing. Keep on doing that. And I think only through relationships and through things that are going to be slow and take time is it going to feel like truly like the needle is moving in your life and in others. So I think just look for opportunities to collaborate, to learn from other people. And yeah, hopefully that can happen within your sport too. I mean, there's so much going on in the running world. I want to like throw out there, like, you know, the running and diversity like group coalition that's come up is huge. Like the work that my friend Allison Desir does is huge. Everyone on this podcast should follow Allison Desir.
Yep.
Jordan Marie Daniels with Native in LA. There's amazing free education out there for you to learn. And I think just tap into that too. It can also be as easy as like, if you're looking at your screen 50% of the day, like I am, like diversify who's in that screen too.
Yes.
Like not only diversify who's in your real life, but diversify who your inputs are online. It matters. We can talk all the time how like an Instagram follow won't change the world. And also like, if you read different history books when you grew up, would you maybe understand different perspectives about the world? I think so. Like what's in front of your face. So that's a lot, but I just want to like encourage people to keep on going. And if they have tried and they have failed, first of all, there is no failure. There's just like messing up, own it, move on. I
like
have
you said,
failed.
No excuses.
Yes, I have messed up so many times. Like think about it, like in running, like it is that new muscle you have to build. Like it's not going to be strong at first. Like you're going to have to feel not ready. And I definitely did not feel ready when Pattie was born or at any point in my life, but I've always just tried to show up and say, hey, like I'm here, like what can I give, you know? So
thank you. That's really good advice there, and definitely actionable and what people need to hear. Well, I appreciate you both so much for your time. Where can people go find you if they want to follow along in the future?
I would say Instagram. I am ultra.Ryan. And Wyn, what's yours?
Yeah, I am at BEYONCE on Instagram. Okay, it was a funny joke. It's Beyonce. I am Pattie Gonia, PATT. That's such a bad joke. PATTIEGONIA on Instagram. And yeah, I think that like more than us, you should definitely follow some other amazing voices like Allison Desir, like Jordan is at Native in LA.
Yeah.
Allison Desir is, I believe, Allison ALISONMDESIR. They should, just definitely like also like follow and unfollow people in your life that are like, sucking shit from you. Like don't just follow us, but like unfollow, hit that unsubscribe button, like mentally and actually physically from people in your life that really you feel like are more like making you feel more like competitive or gross or like icky, and follow new people who you can celebrate with.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Thanks,
100%. Or mute them if you feel like that would.
The mute is also a powerful tool. I love the mute button. So hey,
thank you both so
Tina,
much
for real.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tina.
This has been a joy. You
both.
are an incredible interviewer, and thank you for giving us the space and the platform. And no bullshit for doing what you do best with this podcast being an action of allyship. You know, I think a lot of people really would like underestimate something like a podcast to not be something like that, when really like this is allyship, giving people a platform and a stage to speak. And so I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you. That's definitely something that we work really hard on. So I appreciate that. Hi friends, just a quick message to say a big thank you to the Running for Real team. While I may be the face of Running for Real and the voice behind the podcast, there are a group of people who are working tirelessly to provide everything that runners could need within our community, to make our community stronger, better, and evolve and grow and learn from one another. We are working really hard to make Running for Real the place we believe it can be within our community. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone on our team. That is Victoria, Stacy, Sandy, Sally, Maria, Kelsey, Kat, Jeremy, and Erica. I appreciate each and every one of you and the hard work that you put in. Now let's get back to the show. Wow, wow, wow. There was so much I could learn from that conversation. I was listening and learning and growing with everything that they said, and their story of how they met as a couple. It was just, I just loved it, how it happened like that. And I'm really grateful that we got to share that story of them together and really get to hear them together. Really so supportive and loving. And I had the extra benefit of being able to see it on video and just see how supportive they were of one another. It's beautiful. So thank you so much to Wyn, to Pattie, and to Ryan. I adore all of you, and I'm so thankful for all the work that they are doing. And also to you as a listener for joining us today. I know you could spend your time in many different ways, so I appreciate that you are here. I also want to take a moment just to remind you about our partners for today, Allbirds, who are just crushing it, doing the work to change the running industry in terms of the way that we are seeing sustainability and thinking about our future and what matters to us and how we can do it better. So you can go to allbirds.com and check out some of their stuff. I also want to thank Athletic Greens. You can go to athleticgreens.com/Tina to go get yourself that 1 year free supply of vitamin D plus 5 free travel packs with your order to keep you nice and healthy in these coming months. And finally, thank you to Inside Tracker. Inside Tracker we have been working with for many years now, and they are a real place for us to keep an eye on our health and see how things are doing. By going to insidetracker.com/Tina, you can get 25% off. 25% off. Now that is a special code just for you, my friends. So go to insidetracker.com/Tina to get that special offer. We'll see you on Monday for a together run, and again next Friday for a regular episode. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next week.